Welcome, 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 everybody, to our Positive Psychology Hour, a program that we do in partnership with the Whole Being Institute. And today we are going to be talking with Amanda
I know you got it.
Okay.
Davidowitz.
Davidowitz. Amanda Davidowitz. Thank you. I was
Perfect.
practicing. Yeah. About compassionate spiritual accounting, preparing for the days of awe. And whether we're preparing for the Jewish holidays or not, this kind of accounting, this sort of bringing ourselves in, reflecting and going inward is really an important part of being human. So this interactive presentation is really going to be an opportunity for us to take a journey of introspection, self-compassion, and self-forgiveness in the presence of one another, in the presence of our community, yeah? Amanda will guide us using applied positive psychology practices as she introduces meditation, breathwork, journal exercises, all designed to create an experience of compassionate spiritual accounting. And intention setting as we approach the days of awe, or as we approach the fall. This auspicious time in the Jewish calendar is an opportunity to return to our best self, to our values, to our community, and to our connection with the divine. People of all faiths are welcome, and will be able to connect with these universal topics and themes introduced during these exercises. Amanda Davidowitz is a perpetual spiritual seeker, yoga nerd, and self-improvement enthusiast. She loves to combine yoga, meditation, positive psychology, and other mindfulness practices with Jewish traditions in order to create new, meaningful rituals. Amanda is a certified yoga instructor through both the Kripalu School of Yoga and Yoga for All, and a recent graduate of Whole Being Institute Certificate in Positive Psychology. And if those of you are still on the fence about that, the cohort is just beginning this week, and you can sign up. I will put a link in the chat. And this is her final project, and she is presenting this to us today. She's also thrilled to be a cohort member at Tish PDX, which is an emerging Jewish leadership incubator in Portland, Oregon. She is calling in today from Portland, and I am so excited to introduce you to Amanda. I'm going to add you to the spotlight. Amanda, thanks for joining us. You just need to unmute.
Yep.
Portland is the home of the NIA technique, which I teach. So I have spent a lot of time in Portland, and I understand that it's a rainy city, but you guys aren't experiencing rain right now. We've got your weather, I think.
I think even a little bit worse. I'm so sorry for everyone who's experiencing the crazy weather. I know my dad's on the call too, and he was just telling me they're pumping some water out of their basement in Pennsylvania this morning. So yeah. I hope everyone's doing okay. And hopefully some of the work we're doing this morning and the guided meditations will help you to maybe just put some of that aside for just a little bit to turn inward. But and also I just want to say welcome to, I see a few of my fellow sippers, recent graduates, just graduated from the program a few weeks ago. I see Rachel and Vance, and I think I saw, and Elisa and Stephanie. So yeah, anyone has any questions, I'm sure any of us would be happy to talk to you. Hi, Vance. It's a really wonderful program.
Yeah, and Amanda told me that she used the JCC code, so I will put that in there in case anybody is interested in doing that. And Amanda, how did you even, you just graduated and you're on the Positive Psychology Hour. I was talking to you, bravery must be in your top strengths.
I'm learning to embrace that. I was skeptical of it at first, but through some of the exercises and work from the program this year, I definitely got more comfortable with bravery and courage being one of my strengths, and being able to identify how that's showed up in my life and kind of step into that a little bit more, for sure.
Well, everyone, I've had an opportunity to see Amanda's PowerPoint, and I'm excited to have you experience it. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take myself off the spotlight and highlight you. And here we go.
I see someone just said that they're starting the program this week. So that is so exciting. You have a really wonderful journey ahead. I think Megan McDonough said it was really smart of all of us to choose this past year to sign up for the program. I think with how crazy the world is, it's definitely something really beautiful and meaningful to do for yourself. So congrats for signing up. I'm sure you'll really enjoy it. Can I get a thumbs up, Caroline? Do you see my first slide? Great, thank you. Well, hi everybody, and thank you so much for being here. My name's Amanda Davidowitz, and as Caroline mentioned in my introduction, I'm a student and teacher of yoga and positive psychology, and also a member of the Jewish community. And lately, I've been exploring how to create meaningful Jewish rituals by incorporating mindfulness techniques from other disciplines. And one of my favorite things about Judaism is how introspective it is and how there are so many beautiful traditions to be explored. So each year we cycle through our calendar and holidays, and the months and holidays stay the same, but we as individuals change. And so because of that, we have an opportunity each year to approach these traditions through the lens of our current reality, to use the practices to turn inward and inspect who we are now and explore our relationship to community and to the divine. And we can choose to approach our Jewish holidays and practices in new and creative ways each time in order to find the most meaning in them. And so I'm excited to share with you today what I have been working on the past few months for this month of Elul, and hope that these creative approaches will be meaningful for you as well. And I'm introducing a variety of concepts and exercises this morning. It's going to be a pretty interactive presentation. And my hope is that you can take some of these with you to practice in more depth on your own time over the next month. So there are three main sections to my presentation today. We're going to start with an introduction to self-compassion, followed by a spiritual accounting exercise, and then explore together self-forgiveness. So if you want to be prepared, the only thing you should need is a pen and a piece of paper or notebook. And I recommend having a full-size 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. If you have something smaller, that's fine too. But if you want to grab even a piece, of printer paper, that would be great. And for the meditation sections, you're going to want to have either a comfy, sturdy chair to sit in, or if you prefer, some kind of cushion or pillow to sit on the floor. And I'd like to start by just giving you a quick introduction to a few Jewish concepts for those of you who are less familiar. So the Jewish or Hebrew calendar is lunar, and it has 12 months, and each month begins with the new moon. And Jewish months all have holidays and themes associated with them that tell the ancient stories, histories, and traditions of the Jewish people. And the themes and holidays are also very connected to nature, seasons, farming, and harvest cycles. So Elul, which is the month that we are in right now, is the last month of the Hebrew calendar year. And it's a month that's all about spiritual preparation for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are two important holidays at the start of the new year. My favorite thing I've heard recently about the month of Elul is from Judaism Unbound, the podcast, and they called it the on-ramp for the holidays, which I think is really fitting. And it's also a transition month. We're moving from summer into fall, moving from the end of one year into the beginning of another, which is a really beautiful time for some introspection. And as Jews, we're lucky. I think we have on our calendar really 4 new years. So there's always lots of opportunity to pause, reflect, and begin again. So Rosh Hashanah, which is next week, commemorates the creation of the world. It's the start of our new calendar year. And then Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement. And there is a 10-day period of time between these two holidays, which is known as the Days of Awe. And that time is a time for really deep spiritual introspection and repentance, and is designated for Teshuvah. So Teshuvah is simply the act of acknowledging mistakes and choosing to change for the better. And the word Teshuvah is often translated as repentance, but literally it means to return. So I see this as an opportunity to return to values, to your personal goals, to community, and perhaps even simply to just living intentionally. So with all that, Elul teaches us about being present in the moment, taking ownership of our lives, and being honest with ourselves and others. And to aid in this work, a tradition during the month of Elul is to blow the shofar almost every day as a spiritual wake-up call. And for those of you who don't know what a shofar is, there's an image on the screen. This is an ancient instrument that's a ram's horn, and it's very loud. So when you hear that shofar blast, it's meant to be this wake-up call. And so I'll invite you now, if you'd like, to type into the chat, what do you think the sound of the shofar symbolizes for you this Elul? So what do you think you need to wake up to heading into this spiritual time? Just give everyone a second to see if anyone wants to share. Oh yeah, letting go of negativity. That's great. I know for me, I was thinking, sometimes we get in those phases where we coast. And so for me, this spiritual wake up call is about living intentionally, being intentional with how I'm spending my time. Yeah, being present. Beautiful. Thank you all for sharing. And you can keep sharing those if you like. So now that you're familiar with these Jewish concepts and where we are in the year, we can get started. So before we can move into spiritual accounting, which involves reviewing our year and acknowledging mistakes or missteps, I think it's really important to cultivate an attitude of self-compassion. In fact, another interpretation of the sound of the shofar during the month of Elul is an invitation to move from judgment to compassion. It can represent the voice of the divine, inviting us to accept divine love and allowing it to heal ourselves, each other, and the world. But unfortunately, most of us in Western culture are extremely hard on ourselves. We often find it easier to forgive others than to speak to ourselves with kindness. So cultivating self-compassion is an opportunity to stop judging and evaluating yourself and to simply accept yourself with an open heart, to treat yourself with the same kindness, caring, and compassion that you might easily show to others. So according to researcher Kristen Neff, who's a leading academic on the subject of self-compassion, she believes it's made up of three core components. So the first is self-compassion. And this is that we are gentle and understanding with ourselves rather than harshly critical. And the second, it's not just about yourself, it's about recognizing your common humanity, feeling connected to others in the experience of life and not feeling isolated in your suffering. And the third is mindfulness, that we hold our experience in balanced awareness, not ignoring our pain, but also not exaggerating it. And I feel like this, concept of mindfulness is a beautiful thing that ties together all these different traditions, yoga, Jewish traditions, things you're learning through positive psychology. You need this skill of noticing to be able to reflect in this way. So we're going to pause here to take a self-compassion break. So go ahead and make yourself comfortable in your seat. And I'm going to lead us through a loving kindness meditation. This is a mindfulness practice. And in this meditation, we're going to explore all three of these aspects of self-compassion. So find yourself in a comfortable seated position. You can stay in your chair or move to a different position that works better for you. And begin by closing your eyes or lowering your gaze. Feel your feet planted firmly on the ground and your hips supported by the chair beneath you. Relax your shoulders and lengthen your spine. And begin to pay attention to your breath, the sensation as the air moves in and out through your nose. And take about 5 breaths here, noticing how your stomach and rib cage expand as you breathe in and contract and release as you exhale.
Can I talk now?
And if your mind wanders, gently bring your attention back to the present moment and to your breath. No need for judgment or negative self-talk. Simply come back to your breath. Everyone has something about themselves that they don't like, something that causes them to feel shame, insecure, or like they're not good enough. It is impossible to be perfect or stop making mistakes. It is human to be imperfect. The trick is to take the time to pause and acknowledge your suffering when you experience it, and to treat yourself with kindness, love, and understanding. By giving yourself unconditional kindness and comfort while embracing the human experience, you can start to feel more secure, accepted, and alive. We'll end this meditation together with a loving kindness mantra. Place one or both hands over your heart or somewhere else on your body that feels comforting and safe. And repeat the following phrases to yourself softly and gently, either in your head or quietly out loud. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. May I be kind to myself. May I accept myself as I am. Release your hands to your lap or sides and go ahead and take one deep breath in and exhale through your mouth. And when you feel complete, you can open your eyes and come back to the Zoom. Beautiful, welcome back. Okay, so now that you've cultivated some self-compassion, we can move on to some spiritual accounting. So what is cheshbon hanefesh? It literally translates to the accounting of the soul. And it's a tradition in the month of Elul leading up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to engage in reflective introspection of the past year. So we're taking an inventory of our actions, behaviors, and choices so that we can more clearly engage in teshuvah as well as intention setting for the year ahead. And this is not about beating yourself up or judging yourself. If you get stuck in cycles of shame or guilt when considering mistakes, it can be difficult to feel empowered and move forward to create change. But by being honest, sincere, and compassionate in this process, we can set ourselves up for positive growth. So I am going to be using the SPIRE framework as a way for us to move through this exercise. So this framework was developed by the Whole Being Institute. Those of you who've been coming to this positive psychology hour for a while are probably quite familiar with it. And those of you enrolled in the program, you're about to get really familiar with it. And this is what I often use for my own self-reflection, as well as positive psychology coaching work with others. And it's simply one way of looking at all the different areas of your life that are important for happiness and well-being. So I have the framework up on the screen, and you don't need to memorize it. We'll be going through in more detail, but there are 5 letters, and they stand for spiritual, P for physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional. I think this is important when reflecting during this time of year. You might get stuck thinking about, spiritual aspects of yourself or religion related to the Jewish holidays, or maybe you're thinking about your year and Teshuvah and you only think about the relational piece. But I think it's a beautiful opportunity to really take that holistic look at your life. So for this spiritual accounting exercise, you will be using each category inspire to reflect on what went well. So how you succeeded, grew, learned, helped others, or positively improved the world around you, and on what mistakes or missteps you might have made. So times you perhaps hurt others or acted against your core values or beliefs, or missed an opportunity to improve the world or help others in need during this past year. And I'm going to pause to take a moment here to get you set up for success for this exercise. So if you're going to be participating, go ahead and get out a piece of paper or a notebook. And like I mentioned, having one that's 8.5 by 11 or larger would, I think, be helpful so that you have plenty of space. And go ahead and draw a line down the center to split your page in half. And if you have a smaller notebook or smaller pieces of paper, you might want to just use 2 different pages. So what we're doing is creating space to make 2 different lists. So the left side of your page represents your wins. So this is what you want to celebrate, accomplishments you're proud of, and what you want to grow and cultivate moving into the new year. And the right side is going to represent your mistakes or missteps. So those are the ways you've held yourself back, circumstances you want to overcome, or mistakes you might have made while you were not your best self. And go ahead and label each list in a way that makes sense for you. So you can simply use a plus sign and a minus sign, or you might use words for the left, such as celebrate or cultivate. It's your celebrate list. And on the right side, maybe room for improvement, or release, learn, or grow, or maybe let go. So I'll give you a moment to just create that line down the middle of your page. You could hold it horizontally like I have, or you could do it vertically, and just find a label that works for you for the left and the right side. And what we are going to do is we're going to go through each category of Spire one by one. So for each category, I'm going to time you, and you'll have just 2 minutes to write the first 1 or 2 things that come up for you in both the positive and negative columns. So this is an abbreviated version of this exercise. I was just telling Caroline, it's shortened from a longer workshop that I was doing. So we're just introducing this process since we don't have too much time together this morning. So please don't worry about being exhaustive or thinking you're going to review your entire past year. Your goal should simply be to write at least 1 positive win on the left and 1 mistake or misstep on the right for each aspect of Spire, at least 1 as we move through. And you might find that more comes up for you in one category than others right now, and that's okay. And you might only remember things from the past few weeks or months, and that's okay too. So just work with what comes up for you now, and you can always revisit this exercise again later. And in fact, I really hope you do. You can keep this list as a starting point and then sit down maybe for an hour sometime over the next week to expand your review to reflect on the entire past year. And of course, remember to review with a lens of self-compassion, non-judgment, and kindness, even while or especially while you are identifying mistakes. So that's an introduction to what we're about to get started with. And I'm going to pause in case there are any clarifying questions about this activity, just how, how to set up your page or what it is we're about to do.
No questions in the
I'm
chat.
not seeing any. Good. Hopefully that just means I explained it really well. So we're going to get started. And the first letter of S is S for spiritual, so spiritual review. So think about how you find meaning in life and connection to something larger than yourself. And ask yourself, in this past year, have you actively engaged in activities, practices, or conversations that have expanded your experience of spirituality? So for each of these 5 categories, I have examples listed up on the screen. They're prompts for you to kind of get your mind going. But really, this time is for you. So choose what makes the most sense and simply write what comes up when you reflect on your year with a lens of spirituality. And I'm going to go on mute and set myself a timer here for 2 minutes. So you can start with 2 minutes thinking about your spiritual review. Okay, that was 2 minutes. And I bet those 2 minutes went by really fast. So remember, it's okay if you only have time to capture 1 or 2 things right now. You can always revisit this later. So the next aspect of SPIRE is P for physical. In what ways have you cared for your body and tapped into your mind-body connection? In what ways have you perhaps harmed your body or not taken care of yourself? Think about food and nutrition, exercise, movement, sleep patterns. And I will set the timer again for 2 minutes here. Okay, that's 2 minutes. And I don't know if I mentioned this, maybe you all got it, but you don't need to worry about labeling your items with the letters. For Spire, you could just keep a running list down each side of your page. So the next letter is I for intellectual. So this category refers to engaging in deep learning and also opening to experience. So you can interpret that in a way that makes sense for you. So have you learned or grown in this past year? Have you taught others? Have you tried something new? And I will start the timer again for 2 minutes here. Okay, time's up. The next category of Spire is relational. So here you think about all the people you regularly interact with in your life and reflect on what type of relationship that you've had with those individuals during the past year, both positive and perhaps not so positive. And I know this is a bigger category with a lot to think about, especially in context of Teshuvah. So I'm going to do a little extra time. So I'll pause here for 3 minutes. All right, that's 3 minutes. And we're moving on to the final category of SPIRE, which is E for emotional. And this last category is the most personal, and it will allow you to reflect on your own emotional landscape. So this is about acknowledging and feeling all of your emotions and reaching towards resilience and positivity. And I have a few prompts up on the screen, and we'll do 2 minutes here. All right. So you can go ahead and put your pens down. And great job. I know that that was a bit of a whirlwind. It's a lot of quick, deep personal work in a very short period of time. So take a moment to pause, maybe take a nice deep inhale and exhale, or do a little stretch in your chair and feel really good about staying present and engaging in all of that work. And I'd love to start by celebrating your wins. So everyone take a second to look at what you've written down on the left side of your paper. And I hope that you can really, truly feel gratitude and love for all the ways in which you've shown up positively for yourself and others, the smaller, big steps you took towards your goals, the relationships that you've cultivated during this year. And know that what you have written down here is just a little taste of all these wins that you probably have from this past year. And I'd love for you all to make a plan for how you can share your wins with someone else that you care about, or perhaps find some other way to acknowledge and celebrate your accomplishments. So if you'd like, in an effort to start that now, you can go ahead and share one of your wins that you've written down with the group in the chat as a way to start this process of acknowledging and celebrating all these positive aspects of your past year. Anybody want to share their wins in the chat? Just one win. Yes, Rachel, it's so big. Me too. Congratulations. That is huge.
Yeah, so Rachel is saying, so everybody knows on the recording sheet that she started and completed SIP. Joanne said discovering WBI, and Joanne has enrolled in the SIP program. She's just starting. She's a little shy about that, but I'm shouting her out for that. I studied German, a new language, every day this past year for at least 10 minutes. Wow, Gail, that's awesome.
Oh, Elisa is good, accepting that you will keep making mistakes. And I think I'll pause there. I think that's a really beautiful one. And it ties in really nicely to that self-compassion work, because this isn't about being perfect. It's about experiencing yourself and life in a compassionate way. So in addition to celebrating these wins, and I'm sure they'll keep coming in the chat, I also want to give you a moment to set a positive intention for yourself. So this could be based off of the wins that you've written down, what you want to keep cultivating and growing as you move into this new spiritual year, the Jewish calendar year, or even just the fall, maybe just how you want to show up for the holidays this next week, maybe an intention just for today. So I'll pause for about a minute here and give you a second to create a positive intention for yourself based on these wins. And if you want to, in addition to just writing it down on your paper, you're welcome to also include your intention in the chat. And I'm so inspired. I've done this workshop a few times. I'm so inspired by everybody's wins. I think it's important to acknowledge this has been a really difficult year. And I see how everyone is showing up for themselves and each other. And it's really beautiful. So thank you all so much for sharing. So just a few more seconds here to write down an intention for yourself. And now I'm going to ask you to set that aside and take a nice deep breath. Maybe give yourself a little hug. Kristen Neff would encourage that. And take in all of this positive energy. And we're going to move into the third and final section of this presentation, which is focusing on teshuvah and self-forgiveness. So as I mentioned earlier, in Jewish tradition, the act of acknowledging your mistakes and choosing to change for the better is called teshuvah. So when we're asked to do teshuvah, we're asked to return to the path that our souls know as right, or the path of becoming a better person, to realign ourselves with our values and the ways that we'd like to show up in the world as our ideal or best self. And I love that this process isn't, or it shouldn't be about guilt. And it isn't about begging for forgiveness or beating ourselves up. It's simply about acknowledging where and when we've strayed and then choosing to return to our path. And I'm introducing the concept now and will provide you with one example for how to do this process. So take a moment to review the mistakes or bad choices that you've written down on the right-hand side of your page, on your release list or your learn list from the spiritual accounting exercise, and choose just one thing from your list and write it down at the top of a new page, a new piece of paper. I find it helpful to have a guide for how to do something as potentially daunting as teshuvah. And what I like about this framework is that it is simple and it works whether you're working with something more external, such as accidentally hurting a friend or damaging a relationship with someone, or more personal, such as negative self-talk, or perhaps not getting enough sleep or not eating well. And I'm going to walk you through these 3 steps to explain the process and then pause for a few minutes for you to give it a try. So this is a 3-step approach to teshuva. And the first step is about acknowledging the behavior and just making an intention not to continue or repeat it. So I'm going to use an example for all of these. So the example behavior would be snapping at your partner when you're frustrated or overwhelmed. I'm sure something many people can identify with. So for step 1, you would simply write a sentence, one sentence. I will not speak rudely to my partner when I'm frustrated. So acknowledging and setting an intention to stop. The second step is to feel regret. So acknowledging why what you did was wrong, or how it was not aligned with your values, or how, if relevant, it negatively affected others. So continuing with that example, you might say, I regret snapping at my partner when I am feeling frustrated or overwhelmed. It's unfair for me to take my frustrations out on them and make them feel badly. And then finally, make a plan. So how will you right your wrong, or how will you follow through on your intention not to repeat the mistake? So if you've done something that negatively impacted other people, what would it take to make it right? Or if the misstep was more spiritual or personal, how can you support your intention to change? And I love this prompt. What is one concrete next step in the right direction? So continuing with our example, you might say, I'm going to apologize to my partner for having snapped at them so much lately. I will acknowledge that this isn't how I want to behave. And maybe the next time I'm feeling frustrated, I'll pause and take a few deep breaths before speaking. Okay, so let's try it out. I am going to pause for 3 minutes here and give you a chance to just take a stab at this, writing down this 3-step process of teshuva for the one behavior that you've written down at the top of your page. And you can adjust this in any way you need to make it relevant and work for your example. So I'll pause for 3 minutes here. Okay, so I know I promised you 3 minutes, but that was actually just 2 because I noticed the time and I really want to make sure I have a chance to properly wrap up with the last guided meditation. So you may choose to revisit your notes from this workshop to do more Teshuvah next month in the time between the 2 holidays, or any time that works for you. And you can use this exercise as a guide. It's written out on the handout that's going to be sent to you, or you could do Teshuvah in any way that works for you: meditation, journaling, letter writing, calling people up, praying. There are so many different ways that you could approach this process of returning. So for the rest of our time together, and we might just go 1 minute over, this is a 4-minute guided meditation to explore self-forgiveness. I want you all to know that you are inherently worthy of love and respect, regardless of the mistakes that you might have made in this past year. And you've already started to identify, own up to those mistakes, express regret, and start making plans to right your wrongs. So I'm going to invite you to just pause, to turn inward, and use the self-compassion that you cultivated earlier to begin to forgive yourself and move forward without carrying unnecessary feelings of guilt and anxiety into this upcoming spiritual year. So as I said, we'll end with a guided meditation. So go ahead again and find yourself in a comfortable seated position. And when you're ready, you can close your eyes and settle in. Relax your body, feeling supported by the chair beneath you. Uncurl your fingers, relax the muscles in your face, and lower your tongue from the roof of your mouth. And bring your attention to your breath. Simply notice the sensation of the air as it moves in and out your nose. Self-forgiveness is an important part of your spiritual work so that you can begin to release shame and guilt and be open to positive change and growth. Take a moment in your mind to identify one mistake or misstep from this past year that you regret. Perhaps the same one you worked with earlier in the Teshuvah exercise, perhaps something else. And really think back to the moment when it occurred, where you were, who you were with, how you felt. And notice if any physical sensations, emotions arise in your body, and direct your compassionate and loving breath to those places. Maybe the truth is that you were doing your best you could in that moment, at that time. Maybe the truth is that you were in a lot of pain or experiencing frustration or even fear, and you made a poor choice. Maybe the truth is that you've learned from it and that you're not the same person now that you were then. When we cause harm to ourselves or others, it is often because of internal suffering that we have yet to fully acknowledge. Can you lovingly turn towards the wounded parts of yourself and begin to open to acceptance and healing? Place your hands on your body in a way that feels comforting and safe. And take a few moments now to repeat the following mantra, either in your head or out loud. And the recipient of this mantra is your past self, who sometimes made mistakes. You did the best you could with the awareness that you had. I love you. You did the best you could with the awareness that you had. I love you. Self-compassion is not an individualistic, self-serving pursuit. Self-compassion connects you with others by cultivating feelings of spiritual oneness. We are all human, we all make mistakes, and we all experience suffering. And it is from this place that you can effectively engage in tikkun olam, healing the world. So let's all take a few breaths together, loudly releasing whatever it is from this past year that you'd like to let go of. So first, exhale completely, and then inhale nice and deep, filling your lungs all the way. Pause at the top, and then exhale with a loud sigh through your mouth. And take 1 or 2 more deep breaths, releasing and letting go loudly as you exhale. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the Zoom. I'd like to leave you with this blessing by John O'Donohue, this poem. May all that is unforgiven in you be released. May your fears yield their deepest tranquilities. May all that is unlived in you blossom into a future graced with love. So thank you all so much for being here and for being vulnerable and sharing in this work with me today.
Gorgeous, Amanda. Wow. Thank you so much. I would love to open it up to, we can take your slide down so we can see you.
Sure, yeah. And I have a few minutes. My apologies for going over. We got so much great comments in the chat. I wanted to see them and read them. So, all right,
not to worry at all.
And I'll just say that there is a handout that has a review of a lot of the things we went over today that's going to be available through Caroline.
Yeah, and I'm just going to remove the spotlight, put you all on gallery view. And if anybody would like to unmute and thank Amanda and give her some love from our community, from our Zoom community, please do so.
Lisa, thank you, Lisa.
I got you. Thank you. Grateful.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thanks, Vance. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoyed
Yes.
that.
Great. Yeah, and I hope you all have some time to take some of those exercises.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes. And remember, you'll get the recording so you can actually do the exercise again and go a little bit deeper if you want and spend more time with that, pausing and hitting play as well. Amanda, we've had several requests to have you back. I think that is success. And for somebody who just graduated 2 weeks ago, this was
That's
her final
right.
presentation. Bravery is in the house. This is what you're seeing.
Oh, thank you,
those
Caroline.
of you that are considering joining SIP, it's not too late. They just started. It's an amazing program. Please consider it. And Shana Tova, everyone.
Yeah,
Happy
Shana Tova.
holidays. And we will see you next week. I believe we're on for, check the, I think we're on for Thursday. Is that right? Yes. But no Tuesday because, of course, of the holidays.
Yes.
All right, everyone, take care of yourselves. Be safe. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye, Jonathan.